Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here on Play on GAA with me, Seamus Brady. In this video, I'm going to be running through the hurling action which has taken place in the Dublin Club Championship of 2022. I'm just going to be recapping the group stage, giving you a review of what has happened in the group stages this year and who I think are the top contenders to win the club championship from this point out. Starting, before we do, please like, subscribe, share and comment. It really helps us out here on the channel. Let's crack on with this recap. So starting with group one, I mean, straight away, this group, just absolute shark tank. You got Coola in there. We've all known the success that they've had over the years. Ballybowden, St. Enda's, Nafina. Nafina, of course, were in last year's final. They looked like they were going to win it. Ballybowden, the success they've had as well over the last 10, 15 years in Dublin hurling. It was, a real shark tank. And then on top of that, you have St. Oliver Plunketts, the players they have, they've Keen Boland, they've Tom Cullen, and then St. Jude's with Danny Sutcliffe, the players that they have coming through, Kevin Hogan, etc. Jude's were really strong this year too. So this is going to be one hell of a group, and it definitely did not disappoint. Coola, 5 wins out of 5. That's the first one that we have to look at. Coola looking so impressive. They had a bye in the first round. Then they beat Oliver Plunkett's away from home by 223 to 316. Then they beat Nafina by 125 to 215. Then they beat St. Jude's by 223 to 213. And that was away from home, a 10-point victory. And then the last round, they beat Ballybowden St. Enda's, who were unbeaten up until that point, by 223 to 217. Coola, we know the talent that they have. They've got David Tracy, they've got Con O'Callaghan, they've got Keane O'Callaghan, they've got Sean Tracy, they've got Sean Moore and Mark Shute. The list goes on of Dublin hurlers that Coola have. Jake Malone, Darragh O'Connell, these lads have all played for Dublin. So naturally, they're right up there as contenders again this year. They were back-to-back All-Ireland Club Hurling champions in 2017, I believe, the last time they tasted All-Ireland glory. They have been so successful. And with Eddie Brennan now at the helm, I think they're right up there again to be right in contention for not just Dublin, but I think all Ireland. I think the talent that Coola have cannot be underestimated. They're right up there again. And yeah, I really like them this year. Ballybowden St. Enda's, speaking of them, they started off the group stage by absolutely putting a beating on Oliver Plunkett's own Rua. They won by 8-18. That's 8 goals and 18 points to Oliver Plunkett's 1 goal and 17 points. Then in the second round, they beat Jude's by 118 to 112. Then they had a bye. Then they beat Nafina by 20 points to 13, a 7-point victory over Nafina. Very impressive. And in the last round, their unbeaten record was torn up by Coola, who beat them by 6 points, 223 to 217. So Ballybowden, what will they make of their run? I mean, very impressive up until the last round, but losing to Coola, that's absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. And now they go into the quarterfinals. They would have preferred to take the front door through to the semifinals, get a bit of a rest. They've got some serious experience there. Some very, very good, talented young players as well, the likes of Pierce Christie. So Ballybowden, strong outfit, strong contender for this year for Dublin for sure. Then Nafina, finishing third, 1-3, lost 2. They started off by beating St. Jude's by 320 to 117. Then they had a bye. Then they lost to Coola by 125 to 215. Then they lost to Ballybowden, back-to-back defeats. That was that 7-point defeat to Ballybowden, 20 points to 13. But they rebounded and beat Oliver Plunkett's in the last round of the group to ensure their place in the quarterfinal. They beat them by 215 to 116. So for Nafina, that victory against Oliver Plunkett's was exactly what they needed. They absolutely had to win that game. That was a straight knockout. Who goes into the quarterfinal, who goes into the relegation playoff. Nafina won it. Honestly, Nafina have unbelievable amount of talent. They have the Curry brothers, Sean and Colin. They have Donald Burke. They have AJ Murphy, who's a forward that I really like as well. They've Kevin Burke there at the back. They've got a lot of talent in this Nafina side. They've got people like Donald Ryan as well, who's seriously underrated. So Shane Barrett as well is another one. While I'm talking about their talent, they've got stacks and stacks of talent. They were minutes away from winning, seconds away even from winning the Dublin Club Championship last year. Ronan Hayes hit that late goal to take them to extra time, and Nafina had just ran out of steam at that point. The experience the Croaks had shone through on the day. I don't think that Nafina can be counted out of winning the Dublin Club Championship at all. They were absolutely fantastic last season. They had a couple of slip-ups in the group stage, but I think as long as they've got Donald Burke, AJ Murphy, the Curry brothers, you cannot count them out. And yeah, I would say definitely dark horses for the Dublin Club Championship. Coola and Croaks look very, very strong. Then the last two, Oliver Plunketts and St. Jude's, 1-2, lost 3, and Jude's 1-1 and lost 4. Jude's victory, that came with the bye, so they actually lost all of their games. Oliver Plunkett's got one victory, that was against St. Jude's by 219 to 15 points, and then the bye counted as their other victory. How will they feel going into the relegation playoff? Jude's, it'd be a hard one to rebound back. They're playing against St. Bridget's in the relegation playoff. Honestly, it'd be a tough one for them to rebound back. They have the talent, as I mentioned, the likes of Danny Sutcliffe, but it's difficult to rebound from 4 defeats. I can't lie. For Oliver Plunkett's, again, I mean, they beat Jude's. That was their last game, obviously. They beat Jude's, then lost to Nafina in what would have been the decider for who goes into the quarterfinal. So morale might be a bit low there, but with the likes of Keane Boland that they have there, surely they can rebound and get themselves back into the Senior Club Championship 1 for next season. Moving on then to Group 2. Kilmacud Croaks topped the group, 5 wins out of 5, just like Coola did in Group 1. Kilmacud beat Crave Kieran by 27 points to 14 points on the opening day. Then they had their bye. Then they beat Bridget's by 25 points to 115. That was away from home as well. Then they beat Lucan by 124 to 18 points. And then in the last round, they played against Vincents and beat them by 225 to 3 goals and 18 points. Kilmacud Croaks have smashed it. They are the Dublin Club Hurling Champions. They got caught by Clock Balacolla in the Leinster Club Championship last season. Stephen Picky-Mar absolutely took them to the cleaners that day. But they look like they've taken a step ahead this year. I mean, they looked somewhat like they didn't deserve to win the Dublin Club Hurling Championship last year. They caught Nafina cold. They caught them at the death and then put them away in extra time. But this year, they look like champions. They've played absolutely fantastic. Their 5 wins have been phenomenal. They haven't put a foot wrong. They still have the likes of Fergal Whiteley. They still have the likes of Brian Sheehy at fullback, Ronan Hayes, Alex Considine. These lads are coming through. And, you know, for Croaks, they've been absolutely fantastic. So with them at the helm, with Dalo there, I think, look, Croaks, serious outfit this year and have to be taken serious for Dublin Club Champions and then Leinster Club Champions as well, because they've been so hurt by, you know, that loss to Clock Balacolla. Ballyhale Shamrocks, of course, always on the horizon there in Leinster, but I think, yeah, it will be interesting to see how Croaks get on this year. Second place went to St. Vincent's, who won 3, drew 1 and lost 1. They started off by beating Lucan by 2 goals and 18 points to Lucan's 21 points. Then they drew with Bridget's by 216 to 119. Then they beat Crave by 220 to 216. Then they had their bye, and their undefeated record was then tarnished in the final game, just like Ballyboden's was in Group 1, by Kilmacud Croaks, who beat them 225 to 318. Vincents, how will they feel going into the quarterfinals now? Obviously not making it into the straight into the semi-final, just like Croaks are. Look, they've got serious talent. They've got the McBride brothers. They have John Heatherton. They have a serious amount of talent coming through, Vincents do. So I think they'll be in a good space going into this next game now. They face off against Nafina in the quarterfinals. That'll be a mouth-watering clash. Yeah, I would say definitely Vincent's dark horses. I think they have the ability to go win the Dublin Club Championship this year. Third place was Lucan Sarsfields, who won 3, drew none, and lost 2. Their opening game, they lost the first one to St. Vincent's, as I mentioned, by 218 to 21 points. Then they rebounded back, beat Crave Kieran by 122 to 114. Then they had their bye. Then they lost to Kilmacud Croaks by 124 to 18 points. And in the last round, they secured their place in the quarterfinals by beating their direct rivals for that spot in St. Bridget's by 217 to Bridget's 111. So for Lucan, how will they look at this? I think they'll take great confidence from the fact that when it was all on the line, when they really needed to step up, they beat Bridget's by 217 to 111, which was a big scoreline to put on St. Bridget's. I mean, they have the Crummy brothers there. They have the likes of John Bellew. It's a strong Lucan side. And how will they feel going into the quarterfinals? They're playing against Ballyboden St. Dendas. That's a mammoth task for Lucan to take on. But the morale in the club is pretty high. Of course, last year they produced a shock in the football by beating Ballymun. So the hurlers will go into this with nothing to lose. They have a good squad there, and they'll just go in and give it a lash. And I actually do give them a chance of beating Ballyboden. Ballyboden have been turned over already in their last game, so maybe they might be a bit on the ropes. But I have to be looking at Ballyboden for favourites for that game. But we'll see what happens. The last two places then, St. Bridget's finished fourth. They won 2, drew 1, and lost 2. Their opening game was a bye. That counted as a victory. Then they drew with Vincents by 216 to 119. Then they lost to Croaks by 25 points to 115. Then they beat Crave Kieran. That was their victory by 124 to 211. And then they lost to Lucan. Crave Kieran lost all 4 of their games. Their win in the group is actually a bye. So they go into the relegation playoffs where they will face a off against Oliver Plunkett's own Rua. I think that will be actually a very, very tight game. And Bridget's playing against Jude's. I do make Bridget slight favourites for that game, but they can definitely be caught by Jude's. All those games are on the 24th of September. That will be one hell of a weekend to look out for because the quarterfinals between Ballyboden and Lucan and Vincents and Nafina will also be on. There'll be full match previews of those games here on Play on GAA. I was just giving a recap of the club championship. So far, you can't help but look at Coola and Croaks. They both look so good. 5 wins out of 5. It'll be very interesting to see how it unfolds. Make sure you catch the preview here on Play on GAA, guys. And until next one, take care.